Hey, and welcome to another installment of Catching Up with Chris, Jake, and Sam. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jake.
And this week we've actually got we're bringing somebody else into the Geek Out lair. We've got aspiring comic writer. Chris, you know this fellow from your time in New York. Would you like to introduce him?
Yes, let me go ahead. Two previous owners, dual engine, long range capable, hard use, keyless remote starter. Best offer. Not looking to purchase a starship? Or I already fucked it up. Not looking to purchase a spaceship? You can still follow along on the adventure. Two robots in space debating whether they're on an adventure or not. Suddenly, one finds them. We have in the studio, via Google Hangout, Skype, whatever the hell we want to call it, we have in the studio Ilya. What's going on, man? Writer of
How's it going?
10 comics. Not 10, but 10. As Ilya pointed out, I don't enunciate well enough earlier.
So this is your first published work, and it's a webcomic series. Any idea, like, how did this idea really come about? As Chris kind of alluded to, with that supersonic statement, it's like two robots, one spaceship. How did that all come about?
Sounds sexy.
Oh, it is, and it gets way sexier in the second issue, but I haven't fleshed it out yet.
Yeah.
Well, I've written it. But how did it start? It started on a crowded subway. I've always thought of myself as a locked-in writer. I have all these ideas, I just can't get them out, which is just an excuse for laziness.
Right. I know that feeling.
It's I'm a genius trapped in a. I'm not really. I'm just lazy. I just can't put things to paper.
Oh, we all relate. Yeah, don't worry. Yeah, we're all on the same page.
We're all writers
Yeah,
here.
no judgment here. But how
Right.
long have you been sitting on this idea? This idea of this. So for those of you, first off, where can our listeners find this comic?
So we're, we tried to get a pretty good social media presence. The website itself to read the comic is clunkerspace.com. We
And
actually just moved from Tumblr to
I'm sorry.
Real.
I was just gonna throw in. We'll add links to our social media so that people can find it as well.
Cool. Yeah. So it's clunkerspace.com. So the idea came from, I was just kind of actually frustrated with. I was trying to write a novel, like you do.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
And nothing was happening. So I got frustrated on my way to work on the crowded 4 train to,
Typical.
downtown New York. I pulled out my phone and I started writing this idea. And then I started writing it every day. And then after a very short amount of time, I had the outline of like the first 5 issues going. And it was the first story that I had started writing that intrigued me. So, I don't want to railroad here, but it's like, in writing, you either plan it out or you fly by the seat of your pants. I'm usually a planner. I have outlines upon outlines in Excel documents. This was the first thing that I kind of I'm just going to go with where the story takes me, and it was really fun.
Yeah, I have a million outlines on my computer and no finished works.
All on
much.
Google Drive. Yeah. So with your release schedule, it's looking like it's one page that you're releasing a week.
That's right, on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
I thought about doing more. I thought about like there's a page. The most recent page 13 up, is an homage. I hate using that word, but it's an homage to Assassin's Creed.
I saw the Black Flag stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, looked very exciting.
But the very next page 14, is kind of like a play on it. So I was like, I'm just gonna push 2 pages out, and then my artist was like, no, you should build up an expectation. So I still have a lot to learn in terms of owning the crowd, I guess. I don't know how to, summarize that.
I have to say, your writing meshes very well. Now, you don't know this writer or your artist personally, right? You had met them online?
Yeah, so I use the service called Elance to find the artist. It's actually I went through the Reddit stage of trying to find an artist, where if you don't offer up money right away, people they don't take you seriously. Not because you might not be a good writer or a bad writer, doesn't matter, but because if you don't have, this is their livelihood, so
Right.
why would they, volunteer for, potentially a flop?
Yeah, they're not doing stuff for fun. They're doing stuff for work.
Exactly.
And I'm guessing you two always. She doesn't live in New York.
No, she's in Italy. She's Italian.
Oh wow.
Oh.
Que buono. Do you correspond via email? And I'm assuming she speaks English very well in her emails as well. She does. You do mesh very well. She kind of has this almost like and I don't know if this is the intent that you're going for. It reminds me of like the Iron Giant. It reminds me of like Pixar films like WALL-E, that kind of like space sensibility. And of course, there's a lot of pop culture references too. You mentioned Assassin's Creed and Indiana Jones. Is that something that you were always kind of striving for something that kind of pop culture heavy, and with those kind of influences?
I would say, from my perspective, it would be immature to call it striving for, because I kind of was like, hey, this panel should look like that. I don't think that's like the long planned out from the beginning, like what references should I incorporate and sprinkle in here and there. It was more like, hey, this would be cool.
Yeah, no, I know the couple times that I've written something with like an intention to like pay homage or whatever to something, like it literally just ended up becoming like, oh, here's a buzzword, here's this and that, and like it kind of lost that story to it, and it just became like almost like what would be fan service. And I looked at it after I was done, and I was like, ugh, this is crap.
Yeah.
Now, writing wise, do you go full script and then send your scripts to your artist, or do you tend to do it more Marvel style, where like on this page I'm thinking I want an image of our protagonist dressed up as the guy from Assassin's Creed, like on the open ocean? Like what's your writing process with that?
So my writing process is extremely messy, has like stacks and stacks of paper, and like, to take it back to, what homages will I insert? Like, I didn't expect it to be Assassin's Creed, actually. I expected it to be a guy on the boat, with his leg forward, and then the next panel I really want to push the next page out right now, but it doesn't matter.
You wanted to you were thinking more Captain Jack or something.
Yeah, exactly.
By the time this episode gets put live, that next page will be out, because you said you post on Tuesdays, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, I'd like to see it and not have it spoiled for me, but all these things that we're talking about, people will be able to see it by the time they listen to this.
Cool. Perfect. But my writing style is actually it was pretty disorganized, but I kind of reined it in towards the middle of the writing process. I started off with literally iPhone notepad, just like only dialogue. There was no action. All the action was in my head, and I was like, I trusted myself to write it in after. I was like, I'll remember this scene, which is good and bad, because then you kind of get flashes of the scene as I was rewriting it, and then I would improve on it, hopefully. Mm-hmm. So I had the initial notepad, then I transcribed it into, I thought I had it near me, but it doesn't matter, into like scene breakdown. What do they call storyboards?
Yeah.
I broke it down into storyboards, which had like obviously way more panels than a comic would have, and then I literally had page, a drawing of a page, and then I would look at the comic Saga
By
in
Brian
terms
K.
of
Vaughan.
inspiration.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples.
Sure,
That is, I would say, my biggest inspiration in terms of what motivated me to start writing and actually, putting my own capital into producing something. And then I would go page by page. I would look at inspiration in terms of paneling. I actually got a pretty awesome compliment, which is really what spurred me, from the writer of Atomic Robo. Mm. I saw him at Special Edition, which is, I'm not sure how to describe it.
It's a New York Comic-Con con light kind of thing.
Really, just like the Artist Alley stuff.
Yeah. It was a supplement to just New York Comic-Con.
Yeah, and I actually sat in on a few panels. One of them was how to launch a comic on Kickstarter, and I actually have a full Kickstarter planned. It's almost ready to go. I'm just waiting on one more thing. But I met, the writer of Atomic Robo, and that was like one of my first introductions into very serious comics. And he, I was like, hey, what do you think? And I had like 3 full color pages with no dialogue. And he was like, I really love your first page, like the paneling. And I was like, that's the one I like slaved over. And awesome.
Yeah, no, that's a great first page. I remember you showed me that at a Special Edition as well.
Yep.
Like, I loved it then, and when it dropped online, it looked beautiful.
It kind of reminded me of Tron, if I'm thinking, because it has like the light tracks behind it,
yeah,
and everything. Yeah. Now, how many pages? You mentioned that you've outlined 5 issues. How many pages would you say would be going into each issue?
I would say at this point it really depends on money, because I fund each page. It's about a page per paycheck. It's not. Right. It doesn't set me back to where I'm eating, ramen every day, but it's not like I can just throw money at my artist, which I would love to do because she cranks them out really fast.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned earlier that the first issue right now is set for 20 pages. Do you think that's going to be about the norm? I think that's what Sam was getting
I could
at.
break it up. I wouldn't say the problem, but in terms of storylines, like things really start to what's a good synonym for like
Kick
can we
into
swear
high
on
gear? Yeah, no, yeah, you can say whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Sorry, I should have mentioned that while we were talking before the episode, because I hate every podcast that I listen to where like every guest is like, "Can I swear? Can I swear?" Like, just fucking tell them before you start recording. So that's on me.
We broke our
well,
own rule.
You said put into high gear, so it doesn't matter what I was thinking because that's perfect. Like it really hits high gear in third and fourth issues where it's like
The shit hits the fan.
I thought of that part of the story and I was like, I just want to get to that now. But the second issue is also like still building, which if I had to go back, I might speed things up. But I kind of like the slow pace because my vision is to have trades.
And it almost keeping it like the slow pace for the first and second issue. Depending on what the actual payoff is in the third issue, like that, keeping it slow and like almost like just building and building and building. In theory, like the slower the pace, the bigger the payoff. At the end. So like if the third issue is really where the fucks and shits kick in.
The fucking.
Is the fucking, then go for it. Do the slow pace for the first two issues.
Yeah, I mean I don't want to spoil anything, obviously.
Right.
And it's really weird when like I dreamt this up and now I'm talking about spoiling something. Like usually it's like I just played a video game and I don't want to spoil it for you.
I just watched the new Avengers movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is my Avengers, not to anyone else, just to me.
Sure.
And you don't want to tell us that Ultron is gay or whatever the.
Well, thanks for the spoiler.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, how long?
Yeah, that's the big spoiler for Age of Ultron, guys.
that Ultron's gay. That's the source of all this rage.
Yeah, a genderless robot is gay.
But how long had you been, to take it back to non homicidal robots, unless they do go homicidal in your book? Let's not spoil anything. How long had you been sitting on this idea where you were sitting on that subway like, oh shit, I've got an idea about a robot in space, I think you called him a glorified satellite in one page. Where do you come up with this idea of like this robot that kind of strives to be really human, but really kind of like an explorer type? How long had you been sitting on that before you were finally like, you know what, this is going to happen? I'm going to like, put the call out for artists and get this thing going.
Well, I mean, a big part of writing that I've read a lot about writing. I don't know if I've actually written that much myself. I've definitely started a lot, but I've definitely done more reading about writing, like on Reddit, on various blogs and books. Like I've highlighted the crap out of a lot of writing books, and the thing that people you read quotes from like Bukowski or other great writers, and it's like you get the sense that it's putting your heart and soul into your writing. And I had no idea what that meant. I was like, I can write a story right now, but it won't mean anything. Like I'll structure it correctly. It'll have an intro, middle, and end, and maybe even a climax. But the characters I feel that I would have written are all the same. Like they're just interchangeable avatars.
Right.
And with this character, like I stumbled onto the story of like, what if a robot wanted to be human-esque? And there was another robot that kind of like debating the merits of that. And I was like, I don't want to write about that. That's hard.
I don't want to write about the human condition.
Right, and I don't know how well I've captured it. Like, it definitely speaks to me, which is obviously important. So, when I listen to writers talk about writing and they're like, find something that means something to you and write about it, I feel like I've found that here because I have an outline for a novel and I've outlined the crap out of it.
Yeah.
But it hasn't really gone anywhere, and I don't feel excited when I sit down and start writing it. I feel excited about this.
So in that regard, you really kind of relate to the main protagonist who's trying to really kind of define himself and find his place in the world, or is that something that you relate to like enormously?
I'm trying not to because there's always the danger of like just writing about yourself,
Sure.
which I have a big fear of doing because it's weird because it's like that's a fear for like very seasoned writers, but because I've read them talking about it, I'm like, oh yeah, I don't want to do that either.
You're almost as seasoned as they are, just from the learning from osmosis, almost.
Correct. Yeah, fairly seasoned in by proxy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's looking great. Have you gotten any feedback online since posting it for the past, several weeks now?
Definitely. I've gotten a lot of feedback about the art. Like, the art immediately catches people's eye, which is, like, awesome.
Yeah,
which
you got a
really
great
to do with me.
you got a great snag with your artist. You know, she's doing a great job.
Yeah. The cool, like, little Easter egg is that on the first page, that planet and the starscape, that's actually me. That's my Photoshop skills.
Nice.
But
I was actually just looking at it because after Sam was talking about it, I was like, I kind of want to check it out again. Very nice.
I had a question about speaking with the artist. Now, I know you said you storyboarded kind of everything and had it, planned out at least, you're working page by page. What's kind of the process like when you're working with the artist? Is that something where like you have the concept and the look down, or do you allow kind of her to come in and throw some ideas for the look, or is that something where you pretty much have it down and you kind of, have that kind of blueprinted and give it to her and she kind of goes from there?
It was kind of an evolving process. Like, the first few pages we like really reworked, and she was like totally awesome about it. By the way, her name is Manuela Soriani.
Okay, very good. Yeah, let's go ahead and drop her name.
Yeah, she's great. She done a lot of stuff. So it was definitely an evolving process where, the first thing we started on were character sheets. Like, there's a character sheets for the two main characters and one other one. The ship, the interior, exterior. Like, there's a lot of ship designs that like haven't been seen yet because it's all worked out because I wanted kind of like an all-encompassing thing. Mm-hmm. So at that was worked and reworked, and I have my preliminary like crappy little sketches that I sent her that I was like, don't even look at this, but here's what I thought it would look like, and she totally like revamped it. In the beginning, Rob had 2 eyes, and she drew him with 1. And I was like, can you go back to 2? And then she did because she obliged. And then I was like, no, let's go back to your version, which is just 1. But in terms of panels, like I had full, here's what happens in this panel. And I would send the script, the page with each panel, and then each panel would have notes, like emotional notes or inspiration notes. And as time progressed, as me and her worked more and more, like you should see some of the, like maybe I'll post them on our Facebook later on.
It could be part of the Kickstarter, incentives and stuff.
Yeah, like the first panels are like super detailed, and I bought like Asian artistic tools that I found at Comic-Con and Special Edition, and I was like so focused on it. And then I saw her work, I'm like, this is just a waste of time for me. So like at the end, it's just like stick figures and just splotches of paint.
Well, that's pretty awesome then, like to be able to find an artist that you've never even met, is on a different country entirely, and to have this kind of chemistry and relationship and trust already. That's pretty awesome.
I can't oversell Elance enough. For any project anyone's ever been thinking about ever doing, go to Elance right now and put out a proposal. I was like we were talking about earlier, I was on Reddit on our comics, our comic collabs, our webcomic, everything. Any subreddit that had people looking for someone to work with, I was on, and I was like, here's my proposal. And I wrote out way more than I saw other people doing. Like, here's my theme, my proposal, the summary, the first couple of pages. And people were like, hey, it looks good, but do you.
What's the compensation?
Pretty much, yeah. And we would discuss it, and I kind of didn't know what I was doing, so it was pretty messy process. People suggested going to DeviantArt, finding an artist you like, and going from there, like approach them. And I did that, and I had like, I don't know, 150 tabs open of different artists, and people were either busy, so or they weren't interested in random solicitation. So then I found Elance, and Elance is incredible. I put out the proposal, the potential budget, and I hit submit. And I expected to get 1 or 2 people in a week maybe. Within 2 days I had 42 proposals, full here's my past work, this is what I'm willing to do, this is my price range, it matches yours, I love your project, blah blah blah. And I would say 9 out of 10 of those people, I would send a small description of like a random page and be like, can you send me like a sketch or something? Like, I just want to see your style applied to my story. And all of them obliged, and that's how I narrowed it down.
Nice.
Now, I know that you had mentioned that, you seem pretty all in on this. You've got the Kickstarter coming up, and, this is still gathering momentum, and you've got at least 4 more issues to write. Is there any other projects that you really want to get into? Like, in addition to this, is there any other comics? You had cited Saga as a inspiration. Would you want to stay creator-owned, or would you ever want to do licensed work down the road?
I would do I'm deathly afraid of dying and not leaving a mark on the world. So anything that gets my name out there, aside from whoring, literally and figuratively, I would do. The more projects I can get my hands on, the more experience I can get. That would be great.
That being said, if you could make your name in the world via whoring, you must be doing something
Yeah.
right. Like, you must be
World-renowned whore.
Yeah.
Matahari
Sounds like an
status.
awesome title for some like
I know,
messed up comic book.
Dude, that's your
Ilya,
second
world-renowned
idea.
whore.
whore. Yeah.
Yeah, there, boom. There's your next comic series
That,
right
one,
there.
that one's on us.
I'll give you guys a creator's credit.
There you go. Yeah. Just give it a link to our website and our Twitter on it.
and just
You're
like
good to go.
a quarter for every issue that's sold.
That's cutting into my margins, but
But yeah, so what's the plan then with the if you're willing to divulge, what's the plan with the Kickstarter? Do you want to go to print, or do you want some sort of mass distribution system?
I definitely want to go to print. I've already, everything's been budgeted out. The last thing I'm waiting on, and this is kind of a small reveal, hopefully this won't blow up and everybody will know about it, but I'm fine saying
That
it.
hurts. That you're saying you hope we don't blow up.
No,
get
by
big
all
and
means, if you
popular.
blow up, this is great. This would be perfect. I actually contacted a 3D print shop, and the main characters have been 3D printed, and we're working on
Ooh.
finalizing it.
That's really
wow.
awesome.
Yeah.
So one of the reward tiers, if you hit that certain number, is a 3D print of the two main characters.
I don't think that's
Excellent.
giving too much away. I think that's
Yeah, no, I think
pretty
that's
awesome.
I think
Yeah.
that's a cool tease to the Kickstarter once it starts.
Right.
And
Perfect.
we'll probably try to have you back on.
Anytime.
If when at least to advertise that the Kickstarter has started. And I hope we get to follow the rise of Ilya and Tin Comics.
Did you guys get to play on Tin?
Oh,
Tin Man?
Yeah, no,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah,
He's
yeah.
like, yeah.
He's a robot. Yeah.
There's another meaning in there, but it's fine. It's a little
There's
more old
10
school.
of him.
No, Tintin, but that's okay.
Ah.
Oh yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah.
yeah.
I actually like that film, The Adventures of Tintin, that Spielberg did, based on the Hurge.
Or the original French comics.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's all about adventure and fighting yourself. So that all kind of I was thinking of the name, and that it came to me in a dream, and I was like, that's perfect.
When he's standing on Everest, because obviously I got the Indiana Jones reference and I got the Assassin's Creed reference. When he's standing on the top of the mountain, is he supposed to be Tintin? He kind of has that explorer gear to him.
So awesome that somebody else saw that. That's not what I was going for. I thought it was me, but that's cool. I'm an avid rock climber, so
Yeah.
that was a little me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. You should see him like every other day. He posts a new picture of him and Nicole rock climbing on his Facebook.
Where
So annoying.
can you rock climb in New York City?
Oh, there's a bunch of places. I mean,
There's
he
a
knows
bunch of
better than I do, but yeah, there's I remember I used to go to like Brooklyn Boulders in South Brooklyn, and I know they have a place in Long Island City that they go to, right?
Yep, we're in Astoria, so that this new place, the Cliffs, is called. Yeah. It's like a 10-minute bike ride away. It's awesome.
The place that almost didn't get finished because of
New York Department of Buildings awesomeness. Yes.
Yeah. Cutting corners.
No, it's great. It's like one of the biggest gyms on the East Coast. Got climbing, got normal gym stuff too.
Yeah. Actually, we might even hit you guys up and do some stuff when we're in New York for New York Comic Con. I know Sam and I are going. I don't know about Jake.
No, I won't be able to get off for work.
Yeah. Well, maybe Ilya will be your replacement for that. Huh?
Oh, yeah.
What?
He's going.
Mia
he's
and Nicole are going. We're
Yeah.
dressing up.
Oh yeah, no, I figured you guys were going. But yeah, no, maybe you or Nicole can be Jake's replacement for that week's episode.
Oh, would we were
If,
recording?
I don't know. If maybe we will.
Okay.
Maybe we'll do a special New York Comic Con edition episode.
Our New York special edition.
Yeah.
Are you guys dressing up?
I might. I've got my Bruce Lee costume ready. That's always kind of
Your fallback costume?
yeah, because it's a yellow and black tracksuit. It's the tracksuit from Game of Death. And I'm always like, maybe I'll wear it today, and then I never actually wear it. But
I bought those shoes.
oh, you got the black and white or yellow and black trainers, nice. But
and I had started teasing throwing together a Wreck-It Ralph cosplay, but
That would be a great cosplay. for you.
right? It would be perfect, especially if I was had my hair back the way it used to be, the crazy poof. All right, but so any closing remarks from you, sir?
Nope, nothing specific I can think of. If you like the website, I have a tracking cookie that I monitor daily about visits, and it's definitely growing. So it's the more the better. Obviously,
Go ahead and plug. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish.
I'm a pretty avid internet person, I would say. So if you hit the email thing, I will respond.
Yeah.
Almost immediately.
Yeah. Go ahead and plug the website, Facebook, Twitter, whatever else you got. Yeah.
It's clunkerspace.com. The Facebook, Twitter, and direct email to me are at the bottom.
That's the word space, right? Not just a blank space, right?
You can't put a space in an address bar.
I'm just making sure people know it's the words clunker and space.
Correct. Clunker, space, spelled out exactly like that. No symbols, no funny business.com.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, Ilya.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Yeah, you have a great day. Say hi to Nicole for me.
Yep.
I shall. Thanks, guys.
See you. Yeah,
bye.
Thank you. Well, that was a good interview with Ilya and his comic. I thought he was a very nice young man.
Very nice. He's very clean.
So very well spoken.
Very well spoken.
Very well
presented.
spoken boy.
Are we making fun of the fact that he lives in New York?
No.
Or are we just being okay?
Just
I've
going.
been hearing
that's fine. We can keep doing that.
I've been hearing a lot of Paul Stanley stage banter.
How y'all feel? I know it's getting so hot outside.
I don't know.
I know you've been drinking a lot of alcohol.
The rest of this podcast, I'm gonna just do as Paul Stanley.
Do you know that the first song that Rivers Cuomo learned how to play on guitar was Cold Gin?
Really?
Yeah.
That's the song that song. Which I was super psyched to find out that Ace Frehley wrote it because he was my favorite member of the band. But Gene sings it, and so I just figured Gene wrote it. And I have nothing against Gene Simmons, but I was like, this is like my favorite Kiss song. I wish Ace wrote it. There's just that weird thing, like you want your favorite Beatle to write your favorite Beatles song. And so I was checking the credits, and it was like written by Ace Frehley. I was like, holy shit! And there's a riff in that song.
No, he doesn't sing into what? Destroyer?
Love Gun was the first time he sang "Shock Me," and because he wasn't confident with his voice. And there's a riff in Cold Gin that blew my mind. I remember just sitting there it was listening to it on cassette with my headphones on, and the dun 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 dun, and they do the key change and stuff because that riff comes out of nowhere, and and Rivers Cuomo mentions Kiss in the Garage, on the Blue album.
I've got Ace Frehley. I've got Peter Criss. And now we can't release this podcast.
I know.
Isn't the rule more than 10 seconds?
I think it's 7 actually.
Well, also if we have to sing on key and well, so we didn't follow any of those rules.
Yeah,
Touché.
we're good. We're good. It's not like we're singing Happy
Take
Birthday.
that, Rivers Cuomo.
I like Rivers Cuomo.
I mean, so do I. But
I like Kiss. I like Paul Stanley. Even I don't know why I said Paul Stanley stage banter equated to my nice New York woman voice, because he's actually a pretty cool guy. He's my favorite member of Kiss. Anyway, I digress. That was a good interview. Do you any developments, guys? We haven't touched base. I sprained my foot.
Yeah,
out of nowhere.
Doing absolutely fucking nothing. I just sprained my foot.
So did you just wake up and oh Jesus?
I woke up and basically my big the muscles.
Was it throbbing or did you step on it and then you felt it?
No,
did you know as soon as you woke up?
Pretty well knew as soon as I woke up and tried to move my foot. I was just like,
you had your Kill Bill moment and you're like,
yeah, my wiggle my big toe moment. Yeah. It sucked.
You and your creepy foot fetish.
God, I never understood foot fetishes, but that's why they're fetishes, right? But that's the
because they're for you.
Yeah, that's the big thing that happened to me this last week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I finished Breaking Bad, bitch, and it was awesome.
Were you depressed by the ending?
I was. I equated season 5 as watching a really good friend slip away into a nightmare, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's how I felt watching. I mean, season 1, 2, 3, and 4 have their moments that are
they're not exactly a walk through the park.
They're not, but season 5 is the most tragic, disturbing, violent, heartbreaking stuff I've seen in recent memory on TV. I remember I got to the Ozymandias episode, which is episode 14.
Yeah.
So 2 before the finale.
Mm-hmm.
And my friends on Twitter were like, "Prepare yourself, prepare yourself." And I want to just say right now, like to talk about all of it. You know, we want to talk about all of it because we've all seen it now, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone because I was lucky no one spoiled it for me. So really, seriously, like we're gonna spoil it and talk about stuff. So just don't listen to the rest of this podcast. But like, in episode 14 is the episode where Hank is killed. And Hank, for me,
was such a sad
Hank
episode.
Hank was my favorite character on the show. And outside of, like you were saying, like Walt Jr., in the main cast, in terms of like finding things out and developing the plot, he's like the good guy.
He goes out. He has the most noble end of anyone.
And
who
there's,
dies on that
I mean,
show.
and he starts off as comedic relief, and then becomes this really serious guy, and has some like really kick-ass moments, and it's just really just interesting, great character. And for me, when he dies, a part of me like died with watching the show. Like I kind of was just like not done with the show. Like I wanted to know how it ended, and I still wanted to see how it wrapped up, and I still was so invested in these characters. But I've never been so deflated. Like I remember I was sitting there watching it, I was so fucking like crushed by it.
I went through the same thing.
Yeah.
On some level, though, you know that when he found out that Walt was Heisenberg, you know that he would have to die.
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't change the fact that like watching it happen,
Yeah.
and like it just. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of death on that show, and it's just gut punch. Like Hank's death is just like the worst, man. Like, and another horrible thing about that episode is, his wife is so ecstatic because she's like, it's over, and she doesn't know until way later that he's dead, and so you have to like sit there and watch her go through her life, not knowing that her husband's dead. But yeah, season 5, man, like it's the real time when I just could. Fuck you, Walt kind of stuff happening a lot in season 5. And then, Jesse, man, like for me, performance-wise, throughout the entire series, I think Aaron Paul was the bee's knees, man. Like it was incredible. And of course, so was Bryan Cranston and Dean Norris and all of them. But Aaron Paul was just phenomenal. I think especially in season 5 because, I mean, he goes through the ringer, and he already went through the ringer 4 different times throughout, in each season. And I was telling Sam about this earlier. Like, that basically his life would have been better if he was still Captain Cook selling shit meth and outrunning the DEA, like in that small kind of grouping, as opposed to ever meeting Walter White. Now, granted, he gets what you could say is the happy ending of breaking free, which was the best part about the finale for me, and one of Aaron Paul's best moments is
the Need for Speed tie-in.
When he breaks free from the gate and is like sobbing, laughing, and screaming at the same time, and that's the last we see of him. But when I finished the finale, it wasn't. I remember just thinking like, what? It was like a couple things, like what now? What was the point? And I don't know. It wasn't like this sense of relief, because I don't think you can have a sense of relief with Breaking Bad, because it's just this kind of horrible show, and about horrible people for the most part. And
I mean, it's in the title, Breaking Bad.
Yeah. So I mean,
but beautiful cinematography.
But I mean, it was crazy. I mean, it wasn't until like a day or two later I was able to just like sit and plus I watched the entire series in 2 weeks. So I was like,
I binged it about it. Yeah.
I would come home and I watched all of season 4 in one day. So like that was like my life was like, work, come home and watch Breaking Bad.
What were some of your favorite character moments over the course of those 5 seasons?
One of my favorite Aaron Paul Jesse moments, and again, it's all runs as one giant episode for me, basically. But I think the episode's called 4 Days, where they're stranded, where they cook, and Jesse leaves the keys in the ignition.
2,
yeah, I think it's season 2. And Jane says, "Why don't we go to some museum or I can't remember what place they say they want to go to." And he's like, "Well, I got some work to do because money is the thing." And when they really are like down and out, and they can't, they have basically sitting on millions of dollars of meth, but they can't get anywhere. And they kind of crank the engine over and over again, and they turn it on for a second, and then it dies again. And Aaron Paul kind of just sits there, and he's like, why didn't I listen to Jane? Why didn't I go to so-and-so? And that's that moment when you realize, like, one, he knows what the right thing is. He just doesn't do it. and 2, the crushing realization that, like, you know, for all he knew, he was going to die there, sitting on millions of dollars that they could never spend because they can't get it out there, and he has this good thing that he can get back to, which of course ends horribly anyway. In terms of Hank, I mean, it's one of the best moments in the entire series when he takes out the twins in the parking lot.
Oh yeah, season 3.
When he gets the mysterious call and has no weapon but still takes both of them out.
That was a
and then
awesome moment.
Gus basically looking like the best Two-Face of all time in the end of season 4. But the shocker of season 4 wasn't that, you know, Gus died or all that kind of stuff, but like is when they zoom in on the Lily of the Valley plant and you realize that Walter was the guy who poisoned the kid.
Yeah.
That was like, holy shit,
Great
man.
final shot.
Yeah, really, really awesome. In terms of like funny stuff, the restrain this when he gets I don't remember what season it was, like
That's
2 or 3.
season 2.
Is it 2 where he Walt wakes up?
It's season 3. It's season 3. Yeah.
Walt wakes up on the floor to the phone ringing with like crushed popcorn in his face, and he's in the classic whitey tighties T-shirt, Bryan Cranston.
Yeah.
And it's his wife calling. She's like, "Don't you ever come over to the house again, or I'm gonna get a restraining order." And he like wakes up and hits his head on the bottom of the table, kind of like moseys around, and he's like, "Restraining order, restrain this!" And he grabs his little Cranston, or Big, for all we know. Who knows?
Little Billy.
Yeah, and I don't know, for that scene cracking me up. Also, when he throws the pizza on the, which is like the same episode, I think.
Yeah.
So a couple things I took away as well is I didn't realize how funny the show was. Like, there's some really, really funny things. A lot of it's like really dark, morbid, funny, black humor stuff. But yeah, I mean, it was an experience. I can't think of another show where I had such a. And anyone who follows me on Twitter, like, I apologize because I was tweeting like a psychopath about the show, like an absolute nut job about it, because because so many of my friends have already watched it, and I love talking about the show with people, because the show deserves all the hype and awards it got. It's fantastic, and it's just a bummer that it's over. But I'm ready for Better Call Saul, because Saul was hilarious on the show, and so. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. I'm bummed that it's over. But
I mean, now that you've seen it, I can tell you that you've seen my favorite episode, Crawl Space. Where
oh my god!
You finally see Walt's breaking point.
The Joker, man, like that. There's like a humming fuzz noise in the background, and just him laughing.
Yeah.
Like just like I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. Like the most insane psycho laugh you can think of.
The last shot is him through the crawl space.
Yeah, and it's just zooming out, and it's like shaking, and the camera's going crazy. I'm trying to think of my favorite episode. I mean, I know I was going crazy. I think it's season 3, episode 7, I believe, is when Hank kills the twins. Because I just love the little things about Hank where he gives Walt Jr. You don't see it, but Walt Jr. tells a story about him getting a copy of Killing Pablo from Walt Jr. and Walt's asking about it, and Walt Jr. basically says, everyone remembers the bad guy, but nobody remembers the good guys, and that said everything about Hank for me. And I was so glad that Hank never compromises morals at all about it. He's when you first see him on the show, you think maybe he's this kind of weird jerk off kind of cop or DEA guy. But he's a constant, man, throughout the show, and it really was in those final 2 episodes. It was, once he's gone, all hope is lost. And again, I didn't expect to see Walter put in jail and Hank to get a pat on the back, and that's how the series ended by any means. But it still really, really sucked and stung when when he gets taken out. But
sure, there's a lot of favorite. He's one of those few characters that stands by his morals the entire time. Doesn't compromise on that at all, and that's essentially what gets him killed.
Yeah. But it's the Rorschach effect. But it was a great show. Anyone who follows me on Twitter, I'm not tweeting like a madman about it anymore. So
you can go back to following.
You can go back to hearing me tweet about listening to Kiss.
What's
like
next
2 a.m.
What's next on the programming block? What do you?
I know I've talked about Psych, which probably would probably be for the best, because
it's a
Breaking
light show.
Bad is heavy as shit. I remember telling someone I needed to watch Step Brothers about 10 times after finishing Ozymandias. Although I'm catching up in the league, watching season 5, which is great to watch after Breaking Bad, because good God, Gilmore Girls is coming to Netflix in October. It's funny, sorry, coughing a lot. Chris sent me a link. I didn't tell you this. Chris sent me a link on my Facebook, and my phone lights up because I get a link, that link on my Facebook from Chris. The exact same moment he posted that, I get a text from my sister telling me about Gilmore Girls, and then later that night, my cousin sent me a thing about Gilmore Girls being put on Netflix.
Everyone knows you love Gilmore Girls.
Dude, Gilmore Girls is the best, man. I love that show so much.
Now that it's on Netflix, I think I might try checking it out.
Man, you got to.
Because everyone that I've has talked to me about it, nothing but great things to say.
Here's the thing about Gilmore Girls that I love. And here's my little blurb about Gilmore Girls as well, and how stupid I am about the show when it started. Because my sister was watching it, and my sister obviously was like a lot younger then, and I would babysit her or watch her when my parents were out. And she was watching Gilmore Girls one time, and my stupidity, the alliteration of Gilmore Girls, I thought it was like the same thing as Golden Girls, just like a show about old women. You know, why not? That's makes perfect sense.
Only shows about old women use alliteration in the title.
That's right, and yeah, with the G's too. But so. I sat down and I watched that episode, and I can't remember it's season 1. I can't remember the exact episode, but Rory goes up and like knocks on the door, and I'm not going to go into it because if people haven't listened, they won't know what I'm talking about. But I was like, wait, this show's like really good, and the thing that the show does is it makes you feel like Stars Hollow is a real place, and it makes you feel like every episode you watch, you're invited into that community. Like they build such a great world.
I feel like Veronica Mars had the same effect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I never watched that show.
Am I the only one who hears?
No, I was agreeing with you.
Oh, okay.
I got to see a sneak peek of the movie because I was special because I really liked it.
Cool.
Yeah.
What's next on your programming? Are you still watching Batman: The Brave and the Bold?
Off and on. I assume you're asking me.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. But off and on, I am. I don't know the next big thing that I want to tackle. Like right now, I'm just kind of like in a chill like kind of mode. Like I recently like I was checking out a couple select episodes of The League because it's a great show, and I just kind of wanted to look back at some of the older episodes. Doing the same thing with Bob's Burger last night. Anyone that follows me on Twitter or is friends with me on Facebook saw probably a couple references to Bob's Burger the other night while I was watching, because I was just like, yes, this show's fucking hilarious. And then we actually, my mom just had her birthday, and we bought her a Blu-ray player for her TV, and I was hanging out with her one day, and she was like, you want to watch Back to the Future? Because she knows that I have them on Blu-ray. And I was like, fuck yeah, I do, 'cause those are like my favorite movies. So we sat down and watched those, and I just want to put a warning out to anyone. If you do not like people talking during movies, then do not watch any of the Back to the Futures with me, because I will
or any of our commentaries for that matter.
I will almost talk nonstop about how amazing the movies are, or like cute little tidbits of information. And actually, while I was watching it this most recent time, I learned a couple things, because my mom hadn't seen the movies for like 10 years. So like she would randomly ask me a question, and I'd be like, I don't know about that. So I would look it up. So now I have even more fodder to talk about that shit.
I remember one time when I was being babysat when I was really young, we watched Raiders of the Lost Ark, and my parents came home. Like, oh, how was Jake? Blah, blah, blah. And the babysitter was like, I've never heard more information about Raiders of the Lost Ark in my entire life. And I don't know if it was more of like, I'm getting the fuck out of here, or just like, now I have my...
to fight the mob!
Yeah, I was trying to fight the mob. Just listening to so much information about Raiders of the Lost Ark. So I'm with you there on that, Chris. Like,
Yeah.
Everyone's got a couple of those movies,
Yeah, no.
I've got all of those movies.
Yeah, Double Team with Sam Stone.
Unless you see it in a movie theater with Sam. Sam is one of the quietest people in the movie theater.
Yeah, well, I always and I remember when I do talk to people in the movies, like it could be fucking just me and one other person. I'll still whisper.
Oh yeah, no,
I'm all about silence in movies, man. Like in the movie theater.
I'm terrible at it. Like I blame it on the fact that I was raised on Mystery Science Theater 3000. So like I try, like if I'm in a theater, I try to stifle it as much as possible, because I respect the theater. I try to go into it being like, no, we all paid money to see this, so I'm not gonna who knows, someone else might not want to hear me talking, but without fail, every movie I see, I have to lean over at least once and be like, oh my god, did you see that? You know, or like make like a, yeah, right. You know, like I try to be really good. Like I was sitting next to you when we were watching Expendables 3.
Well, that was a good one because like one, like nobody was in the theater.
Yeah.
And two, because I'm not gonna be like, Chris, shut up. This is important dialogue.
It's Mel Gibson.
Yeah. Well, that's true. If you talk to Mel Gibson, I would smack you in the mouth. But like,
well, like when Mel Gibson, you know, spoilers, but Mel Gibson's the bad guy, and when he dies at the end, I was like, sorry, Jake.
I was weeping uncontrollably in my popcorn. Oh God! I was doing the Mel Gibson cry where he never actually cries. From
Signs.
The mashed potatoes crying scene.
Yeah.
Oh God! You're not gonna spend a moment on prayer. You're not gonna some this. I'll tell this.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah. Or there's when we went to see Ghostbusters in theaters.
Oh,
where
yeah.
I was
coming back from the bathroom.
I was sitting next to our friend Josh.
I was trying to take a shit.
But our friend
Mission
Josh,
accomplished there.
our
Yeah. Yeah.
I am trying to tell a story here.
I'm trying to tell a story.
but so I'm sitting next to our friend Josh, who is a huge Ghostbusters nut. Huge. So and he likes talking during movies too. So, and it's a 30-year-old movie. So I was still trying to be as quiet as possible, but I have a deep, powerful voice. It carries, even when I'm not trying to project. It still carries. And the guy in front of us was like with his family, and like I'm, you know, kids clearly not, you know, old enough to have ever seen it in a movie theater before. Like we're not even old enough to have seen it in a movie theater before. This kid's clearly like 10, so it's probably like supposed to be a really special moment for them. And he just turns and like just like shh.
As I come back to my seat,
looks Sam almost dead in the eye as if he's the culprit, and just shushes Sam. And I'm just like, and I had that moment of realization. I was like, oh right, I'm being a dick. And then, because this guy is a dad, like ruined like the next 20 minutes of the movie for me, because I was sitting there like I had that moment where I was like, oh, I'm being a dick. I should probably be quiet. And then I was like, oh, you know what? This guy's probably gonna like at the end of the movie gonna turn around and be like, you know, you guys, we're all here to watch the movie. We all paid to see it. And I was coming up with all these things to shoot back at him, not trying to be like, hey man. You know, I'm allowed to talk in a movie. Like I was gonna totally be like, you know, you're right. I was being a dick, but I shut up, and there was no need for you to like, you know, add more to this, blah blah blah. And like I had this whole rant in my head that I was going to go on, and you know, completely pointless because I was being the dick. but I was just so indignant that this guy would like feign like being my father and lecturing me about how to act appropriately because
he's getting worked up about it right
I
now.
am.
I can tell.
Because it was
all right, fine, Chris. All right, hang on. I'm that guy, okay? Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell you to stop talking during Ghostbusters. We're going to play it out in a second,
okay.
And then you're going to come back with what you would have said, okay?
It's not going to be nearly as
that's
good
fine.
because
That's fine.
Is like a month ago.
So go ahead and just start mumbling about stuff, and then I'll be like, hey, okay.
Well, no, it was in my head. It was like at the end of the credits. Like I hadn't been talking for like an hour.
Okay. Well, I'll get you back into the mode. Okay, so hey, come on. Hey, it's just a movie here. We're trying to watch it. Be quiet. I got my kids here.
Hey, look, man. All right, you know this fucking movie is 30 years old. Like you were old enough to have seen this in the theater. This kid's seen this movie before. If this kid's got to be at least 10 years old.
My kid's blind. I have to tell him what he's seen.
Well, then you've been talking in the movie the whole time too.
Yes, and you're talking over me talking to my blind son. How dare you? Usher. There was a man who's reeking of shit who just came back from the bathroom. I demand my money back now.
I
fuck you, Sam.
I wipe.
Okay, well,
that doesn't mean you're not reeking of shit. That just means
well,
you're not
he
dripping.
reeks of shit, and then he left, and now he no longer reeks of shit. So good for you, sir. Mission accomplished. But your friend needs to shut his fucking mouth.
Yeah.
So I can tell my blind son about Slimer.
And that didn't happen, luckily.
So, and Jake proves that he's a better improvisational actor than I am. Yeah, no, that didn't happen. But But Sam, or not Sam, God, well, Sam is like pissed at me.
I'm just taking a dump.
I'm just taking a dump.
I'm just trying to watch my fucking Ghostbusters.
I was just trying to wipe my fucking ass.
and just watch Ghostbusters, and then I was just like, what?
I'm just trying to have a good time. But Josh, oh man, Josh was actually upset that we got shushed.
Which isn't a hard concept. If you pay for a movie, you shouldn't talk during a fucking movie.
I actually, while we were talking afterwards, and Josh was,
indignant.
Indignant about being shushed, and I was still coming off of my high of like, what if? I had another I had a flashback to the second time that I saw Superman Returns in theaters when there was a group of like high school kids right behind us that were like talking at like outdoor voices the entire movie, and it was not the theater that I worked at the time, but it was part of the same chain. It was still owned by the same guy. So I like turned around and I was like, "Look, guys, I work here. I will kick you out." I did this whole thing. We all paid money to see this. In my head, I was like, I didn't pay money to see this because I got it in for free because I work at the other theater. But still, like fuck you kids. Get off my lawn and let me watch this, Superman movie that I didn't enjoy the first time I saw it because I saw it in a shitty theater.
I love Superman Returns.
So that's
silence from me.
So that's there's fucking Rocky 3 loving motherfucker.
Hey, what's wrong with Rocky 3?
Nothing unless you like it more than the first one.
It's more entertaining than the first one.
Yeah.
I'm not like, hey, let's go watch like Rocky, because it's kind of like
let's watch Rocky 3 and none of the others.
Rocky 3 is like it's an hour and a half. It's like it's over and done. You get everything you need. You get what you want.
It's wham bam, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Rocky is
it's wham bam. Rocky is now a mentally sharp dressed, skinny, totally different person than he is.
You always cite that, but to which I say, Paulie calls him out on that in the very beginning.
He calls on him being like a sharp dressed man, which is fine when you win the title.
Every girl's crazy about
that's
a
true.
Man.
But his entire being is different.
The entire idea is that he's no longer hungry like he was in Rocky 1 and 2, right?
Much
but
like the wolf.
No, but it's thank you for this,
I have
by
the
the way.
tiger.
But it's like
hungry like
he's
the wolf.
he's no longer like even the character of Rocky. He's like 80s totally different Rocky, as in terms to where he's
Stallone.
he's Stallone. He's not like the bumbling
He's on a coke bender.
loving, kind of like not gentle giant, 'cause he's not a giant, but like, you know what I mean, like kind of guy. And like the whole idea of like changing your look and everything makes sense, but his entire everything is totally different.
How dare he evolve as a person?
No, because his
shows how the fame and stuff changes
his
him.
brain waves go on like a rocky path, if because he's like kind of just like this lovable idiot in the first two. In the third one, he's like super aware of everything and
he's
just,
a businessman. Almost.
He's Gene Simmons. And then in the fourth one, he's going back to
He's Peter Criss.
He's revenge. He's revenge Rocky.
Yeah, and then in the fifth one, he's brain dead.
because
And
he
then in
got hit.
Balboa, he's Rocky 1 again.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry that it's a fictional story.
No, it's real.
These are documentaries.
It's real. So, no, I like Rocky 3. I just like to give Sam a hard time
Yeah.
because I love the Rocky franchise.
Well, I was gonna talk about the. Shit. What's the only thing else?
It was, I remember you said you wanted to talk about Destiny.
Yeah, Destiny for the PlayStation and Xbox One has just come out.
X-Bone.
Yeah, and
Sorry.
it's all right.
I have a need to say that every time we mention or anyone mentions the Xbox One.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay, but it's I don't know. It's I feel like Destiny kind of mirrors what's going on with like the major movie studios these days, and that you're seeing like fewer big tentpole releases, and most of them aren't that good anymore, right? Like you're seeing. I think there'll always be big video game companies. Like I think there'll always be big movie studios, but we'll start to see less of them, and their output will be a lot less as well. You'll only see a few notable because they're basically bankrolling almost their entire operating budget on like 1 or 2 games a year now. And so if those games tank, that then Daddy doesn't come home with like things for Thanksgiving. I was gonna say like a different holiday,
but maybe not everyone in our audience celebrates, those other holidays. Everyone celebrates Thanksgiving.
That was so delightfully weird that Rocky 3 is now my favorite Rocky movie of the bunch.
But yeah, I mean, and you're starting to see that with like movie studios, right? Like you're starting to like Steven Spielberg and George Lucas were straight up like, hey, the movie industry is about to implode at the rate we're going. And I feel games like, you've got Capcom, the guys that like were like on top of the fucking world with Mega Man and Street Fighter and Devil May Cry. They're up for sale now because they can't get a profitable game or a game profitable enough to stay running. Like the guys that did Final Fantasy, if it wasn't for Final Fantasy 14, they would be bankrupt right now.
When did that game come out?
Destiny?
No, Final Fantasy 14.
Like last year.
Okay.
It's what saved Squaresoft, essentially. Square Enix.
Square, whatever they are now.
Yeah, Square, period.
Square.
Square.
We're starting to see more and more
Stacks.
We're starting to see more and more indie developers, like the guys that did. We talked about Five Nights at Freddy's before. That's an indie game.
We was like one guy, right?
Yeah, we all played this one game a couple weeks ago over at our friend's place called VVVV.
That game was cool.
That game was awesome, and that's an
very
indie game too. We're starting to, PSN, Sony, to their credit, is starting to partner up with more and more indie developers. They're basically financing indie developers to come up with lower budget games because that's the way to go. But that's kind of what I really wanted to touch on. I mean, do you guys kind of see that going on with movies and stuff?
Well, so have you played like Destiny?
I've played a bit of it.
Because it's funny, I was reading a little bit about the game because I've had some friends tell me, dude, you got to get it. It's so awesome. And I've seen people talk about it and tweeting.
Titanfall's kind of the same way too, right?
Yeah. And one of the things I just saw on an article right before we started recording was one of the makers of the game, because I can't think of words.
I think it's Bungie.
Bungie?
Said that the game is a different game after the 20-hour mark. That it's I don't know if that's when the game kicks in, but if that's the case, what's the point of the first 20 hours? And also, I was under the impression that it's like a super customized game, like it's a very unique thing. And from what I've heard, it's not about customizing anything, really. Is it more about the open world than it is anything else?
I mean, I just did some like multiplayer shooting stuff. So,
but like I've also found, and this is the genius of like the Madden games. I never want to play Madden until football season starts. Like I don't play sports games during the off season of that sport. Also, I don't play baseball games because Xbox can't fucking make a good baseball game to save their lives.
Baseball games haven't been good since the Nintendo, man.
They haven't been good since Nintendo 64. That's right.
Mike Piazza's Strike Zone?
No. Although you can get the aluminum bat cheat and you can hit balls 1,000 feet.
Yeah.
It's
Nice.
fucking hilarious. But I mean, that was what I found funny years ago, guys.
That's
being Mike Piazza with an aluminum bat and crushing 1,000 feet home runs.
Almost
being
as good as Sammy Sosa with a corked bat.
That's right. Oh, dropping knowledge. Fuck you, Sammy Sosa. And fuck you, Heinz Ward.
Mikasa Sukasa.
But yeah.
MLB All-Star with Larry Walker on the front cover. It was probably the best. Larry fucking Walker on the front cover.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Whoever the hell that is.
Well, not a guy you'd ever be like.
That's the point.
Yeah, well, he was the fucking like champion of champions when that game came out.
Oh, really? April O'Neil? That's the point?
And so that's a great game. But
sorry.
Call back to one of my my headache moment, my migraine moment at Ninja Turtles.
the point where Sam clicked off.
Yeah. But
and was like, I am not giving this the benefit of any doubt.
But yeah, that was the last good baseball game
that I can buy.
But
it's all about me. No, but they had PS3, PlayStation has some great games, like the show.
Yeah. I'm loving indie games lately, though.
Yeah. To go back to what you were saying about like how they're just blowing their load on advertising now. I remember when I saw the first commercial, the like live action commercial for Destiny. I was like, oh my god, this game looks awesome, and I was like. like almost instantly, I was like, "There's no way this game is going to live up to this hype." Like, and then I was like, "This is totally like." It felt like it was totally riding the coattails of like Guardians of the Galaxy with like the the Led Zeppelin playing, even though Led Zeppelin wasn't in Guardians, but it's still kind of the same mood. And like the outfits kind of looked like Star-Lord would have worn them. And while you guys were talking, I was searching for this tweet that I had made like 2 weeks ago because I felt like it was poignant and I wanted to share with everyone. Right after seeing the first commercial, I was like, Destiny looks like Halo if Master Chief were a Jedi and ran around dressed like one of the Assassin's Creed characters. And I feel like that's a very... I don't know how you guys feel because that was a whole lot of like... or not a whole lot, but a couple video game references that probably are a little stale on me because I'm not a video gamer, but does that feel like an accurate visual portrayal at least?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, go me. Sorry, I just wanted to pat myself on the back there.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have played some indie games before, right? Like, what's that one game that I introduced? Shatter is an indie game.
Oh, Shatter's awesome.
Yeah, on the PSN.
Great
So,
soundtrack.
Yeah, I think that's the future of video games. We're gonna see maybe one or two major tentpole release, maybe a couple more during the holiday season, and then the rest is just gonna be indie games, is like Chuffa, and of course like Madden and a Call of Duty game because those are like perennial now.
I was thinking about it, like, I don't have usually, I have like a TV series I'm watching or something, or books I'm reading. I don't have like a video game I'm playing like I used to for the longest time. I'd have this, Red Dead Redemption or a career or a season in some sports game or I think the last game like the first podcast we did, I think Sniper Elite 3, which I don't think I've played since that podcast. I'm not playing video games that much,
I've never been much of a strong video gamer, as I think I've pointed out a couple times.
I've been a pretty always
Yeah.
been, yeah.
Yeah.
Though I'm more nostalgia. Like I'll turn around and like beat Super Mario World in like an hour because I can.
Well, I came home and you were like, I was like, "What's up, Sam?" You're like, "I'm asserting my dominance as in the Nintendo Entertainment System realm and bitch slapping it with my dick." Something along those lines.
Just Bowser.
Bowser's about to get slapped like Bo Bridges.
Yeah, I don't. I never got the idea that like gamers are so like, I don't ever.
Elitist?
Well, gamers and like geeks in general, this exclusionary idea, and that's like the most stupid idea ever. That
we were excluded when it wasn't cool to be nerdy, so therefore we're going to exclude everyone that kind of dabbles into this realm.
Yeah, especially women. We're especially gonna like. I hate that.
Mm.
That makes no sense to me. So I hesitate to call myself a gamer because of it, right? Because of that kind of stigma.
Yeah, I remember back in like high school, I used to call myself like a nice guy, and like that was literally just like, oh no, I'm nice. And then like I feel like 5 years ago there was like this like polarizing shift when nice guys became just like really douchey guys that were like nice, like kind of did nice things for like one girl so that they would sleep with them. And I was like, that's not what I'm doing. And like there was this huge
backlash
backlash against nice guys. And I was like, well, I'm going to take this opportunity to sidestep and be like, no, I just believe in the golden rule, of like doing unto others as you wish, they do unto you. Like I'm civil.
Yeah. Heaven forbid.
Yeah. I never donned a fedora and I never plan to.
But yeah.
I have before for like Indiana Jones.
I've been Indiana Jones for Halloween.
I've been Indiana Jones.
I mean,
Halloween.
to be fair, the fedora is more of a Tripoli, I believe. The fedora that they reference when they're talking about like nice guys and stuff like that. It's not actually a fedora.
Yeah.
Oh well.
But yeah, like a fedora would be like the Indiana Jones hat.
Well, because we were talking about like Halloween, possible Halloween ideas, and I think I'm going to bring back Dick Tracy because when I was a kid, I bought a store-made mask outfit from Jim Carrey's mask, and it came with a yellow coat, yellow pants, and like the mask and stuff. So I took the coat.
It was like a zoot suit.
Yeah, I took the actual coat, which was an actual coat you could wear. It was a shit coat, but it was a coat.
Sure.
And the pants, and I had a dress shirt, a red tie, like a black vest. I didn't wear like the actual coat underneath, and I had a old yellow kind of fedora straw hat, and I spray painted it yellow and put black tape around it, so it looked like the fedora from Dick Tracy.
Right.
And it was so funny. This is like mid '90s, I want to say, when so Dick Tracy, the movie had been out for a while. Like it wasn't people
Right.
were like still like, oh, remember Dick Tracy?
Yeah.
And so the funniest thing, and I only really started remembering this lately because I was telling people about it and reading about Dick Tracy in the news because of the Apple phone, the two wrist radio and everything. Probably none of that made sense because I just like jumped. I was like, wrist radio, jump up.
And you were pointing a lot.
And I was playing with my imaginary wrist radio.
I was playing with my imaginary wrist.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, that's loud.
Yeah, it was.
So I walked up to, we'd go to the door, knock on the door, and people were dressed up as Spider-Man or Batman or whatever was popular in the '90s. Weezer. People dressed up as Weezer. No, but not really. But and I remember
Pearl
like
Jam.
old people would answer the door and they'd be like, "Oh, it's Spider-Man. Oh, it's Batman. Dick Tracy? Why the fuck is this kid dressed up as Dick Tracy?
What the hell is wrong with you?
I was reading Dick Tracy when I was like 80 years ago. I never thought Dick Tracy would come to the door and ask for candy, and I was like, yeah. Whatever, prune face, and I'd run away.
Eat lead.
Yeah, eat lead, Tracy. I still think Dick Tracy is one of the coolest characters, man. I still forever and ever
Hugely
am
underrated
calling
movie.
for a return to the pulp heroes, which I think comics are doing really, really well, especially Dynamite Entertainment. But I'm really hoping somewhere down the line someone makes a pulp hero movie that, because Hollywood loves to jump on an idea and beat it to death, but I hope that they were supposed to be making a Doc Savage movie.
It's what Shane Black.
If
wants
that
to do,
happens,
yeah.
man, and it's great and well received, that opens the door to the pulp heroes again. That gets you the Rocketeer. That gets you the Phantom. That gets you the Shadow. That
You don't
gets
think the
Spirit.
Spirit did that?
No. Well, that shows you how little faith they had because it obviously didn't. You can get an actual good Spirit movie. You can get an actual good Shadow movie.
I have 8 of everything, even though this is the first time you've seen me hold 8 of anything.
Yeah.
At the end of the
Get a
movie.
Green Hornet movie.
Yeah.
Get a fucking Lone Ranger movie.
good versions of both of those.
Yes.
Yeah.
You didn't like the Green Hornet movie?
No.
Not as a Green Hornet fan, but it was enjoyable, but not as a Green Hornet fan because there's that sequence where he's like in the Black Beauty, like crying.
Yeah, he's like in the
almost.
back seat, like whimpering and cowering while Kato's kicking ass, which is cool in the movie. But they have that weird like Kato vision. But like that part's cool, and the Black Beauty looks cool. But like, I don't want to see Britt Reed like afraid to be the Green Hornet in the back seat. Now, like they have a callback to like his original outfit when they first go out the first time and are kicking ass and stuff.
Mhm.
But like not even close.
Okay.
So read Matt Wagner's Green Hornet Year One if you want to read it. Awesome.
And
Or
find
Mark
the
Waid's
old
Green Hornet.
and find the old Bill, the guy that produced the Batman '66 TV show.
Bill Dozier.
Yeah, find the
Oh,
old
the-
Bill Dozier.
yeah. And then
show.
go watch the old Clayton Moore Lone Ranger. It's good
Yeah,
stuff.
because they're related.
Yeah, they are.
Yep.
They're like great uncle or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's a good pause or a good end point.
I think it is, man.
Now that we've all kind of gone,
Yeah, with the whole recommended reading list.
yeah.
But yeah, so it's been another installment of catching up with Chris, Jake, and Sam and Ilya
Yeah.
for this installment.
Yeah, go check out Tin Comics. He's
That's great stuff.
Like
Yeah.
Chris was saying, we'll go ahead and include the hyperlinks in the copy.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jake.
Bye.
Thank
Good
you
night,
very
Eric
much.
Bana.